There were hundreds of unspoken rules that governed peace in the galaxy, but only one that every species followed without exception: never, under any circumstance, interfere with a human bride. It wasn't a treaty. It wasn't a law. It was fear. Legends, whispers of what happened to those who broke that rule, were enough to make empires hesitate. The Neuralians lost a planet. The Vaskans vanished without explanation. The Gralti pleaded for forgiveness, then their sons went out, one by one. But General Korthvier of the Thalrex Dominion didn't believe in ghost stories. He'd led 37 victorious campaigns, subjugated 500 worlds. His banners flew on citadels that pierced cloud-laced heavens. He saw humans not as monsters, but as soft-skinned relics from a backwater. He mocked their ceremonies, their rituals, their attachments. He believed fear of them was a disease, and he would be the cure. His soldiers didn't question him. Not until he issued the order that would become the turning point of galactic history. The human colony of Elysian was neutral territory. A green world on the rim, known for its diplomatic gardens and cultural exchanges. It was there that Korthvier struck. He said it was a tactical maneuver to deny humans a strategic point. His advisors warned him. One of his captains, Jurel, said only one thing as the order was confirmed: "There's a wedding scheduled today." Korthvier didn't even blink. He descended on Elysian with orbital bombardment first. Not enough to crack the cities, just enough to instill fear. Then came the troop. Automated shockwalkers and Neuralash troopers hit the ground in waves. Most humans fled. Some fought. One refused to run. She stood in the middle of the central square, dress scorched, bouquet still in her hand, eyes like frozen flame. Her name was never spoken, but the footage of her was seared into history. The moment the Neuralash struck her down, systems light years away began to shift. She was taken alive. Korthvier wanted leverage. The footage leaked within hours. Not by rebels. By one of his own. It was intercepted by a Terran observer ship and transmitted to Earth's silent satellite network. Across the galaxy, panic began. The High Archons of Ithex convened immediately. Their first words were not about war, but apology. The Threxan Syndicate cut all ties to Korthvier within minutes. Even the brutal hegemony of Krask initiated full retreat from all contested zones, citing diplomatic crisis. But Korthvier didn't understand why. He believed the fear was weakness. He paraded the captured bride before the cameras, declared humanity had no power anymore, that their era was over. Earth did not respond. Not a single broadcast. Not a single diplomatic message. But one by one, old satellites blinked online. Forgotten relay nodes reactivated. Deep space telescopes turned inward. Ships that had been docked in asteroid hollows for centuries powered on. The silence was not confusion. It was preparation. Every signal Earth sent was encrypted beyond alien decryption. Even the AIs that tried to interpret them burned out. Then came the first incident. A Thalrexan cruiser guarding the bride's prison barge vanished. No explosion. No debris. Just a blank spot in sensor data and a silent wreck found drifting days later. No life signs. No log entries. On the hull, one line had been etched with nanoplasma: "Return her." Korthvier ordered full lockdown. He moved the bride to an unknown location, known only to him and his personal AI. He ramped up planetary defenses, doubled guards, tripled his fleet patrols. But it didn't matter. The Valkyrie arrived next. It wasn't a ship. It was a kill vector. Human-designed. Stealth class. Capable of folding past light barriers. It hit his outpost on JYX Prime, where his fleet stored tactical weapons. The entire moon disintegrated in 37 seconds. Surveillance showed no attackers. Only a sudden, untraceable spike in spatial pressure, then dust. Every world that had assisted Korthvier received a short transmission. A single rotating symbol. An ancient Terran character for Union. The message was clear. This wasn't about politics. It wasn't about territory. It was personal. The captured bride, meanwhile, had not begged. She did not plead. She had broken 2 of her fingers to rip apart a fusion clamp and rewire a distress beacon from the walls of her cell. She sent coordinates, timeframes, pulse codes. Each one was intercepted by Earth's old war is and fed into targeting algorithms that hadn't run in 3 centuries. Jurel, the Thalrexan captain who'd warned Korth VA, defected. He escaped to neutral space and released a final message before vanishing. We broke the rule. Pray they let us apologize. Within an hour, every bounty system in the galaxy posted a "Do Not Interfere" notice on anything human-related. Traders rerouted. Black markets shut down Earth lanes entirely. Smugglers scuttled their own ships to avoid carrying anything human-made. Still, Korth VA mocked the silence. He stood atop his flagship, helmet off, eyes wild with self-assurance, declaring his strength. Behind him, galaxies turned quietly. On the 19th day, the humans struck directly. It wasn't a fleet. It wasn't a bombardment. It was one ship. It dropped from fold space like a blade through silk. Korth VA's orbital cannons fired, tracking nothing. Then, their power died. His cruisers lost engine sync. Firewalls disintegrated. Emergency cores detonated out of phase. In under 4 minutes, everything above his citadel crashed in molten ruin. He survived. Again. Someone wanted him to. On the landing platform, a single drone hovered. It broadcast no message. It simply played the wedding march, the exact melody that had been interrupted by his attack. Korth VA, wounded and spitting blood, ordered it destroyed. It exploded on command, taking part of the landing zone with it. No casualties. Just a crater shaped like the Terran symbol for vengeance. The bride was now deep within his empire's most secret fortress, protected by a shell of antimatter, defended by 12,000 ships. He dared them to come. Earth said nothing. The rest of the galaxy did. Every neutral race sent messages of condolence to Earth. Not to the bride's family, because no one could find them. They had disappeared, likely brought back to the planet's inner sanctum. Entire star systems went dark voluntarily, severing connection to avoid being targets. The last transmission from the Gralti ambassador summed it best. They are not waging war. They are extracting justice. Meanwhile, the bride broke her second containment cell. Not with tools. With mathematics. She rerouted a power cycle by calculating its decay rate based on sound. She sent another signal. A pulse embedded with her heartbeat, encrypted in a language lost to time. Only one system in the galaxy could read it. Earth heard her. And it moved. The Thalrex Dominion's capital was next. No fleet came. No soldiers. But the planet's rotational axis changed by 0.2 degrees. Gravitational anomalies followed. The oceans drained into the crust. The atmosphere boiled. 3 minutes later, a line of text appeared across all Dominion systems, written in the language of Earth's oldest data protocols. She is not forgotten. The stars near Thalrexian borders dimmed as observation posts failed to report back. Every long-range sensor station in 3 systems transmitted static before vanishing. Korth VA suspected sabotage, but couldn't explain the precision. Each loss followed a sequence. Signal disruption, gravitational anomaly, total silence. He deployed fleets. No ships returned. The humans weren't sending fleets. They were deleting coordinates from the map. Within the Dominion's military corps, panic grew. Even his most loyal commanders requested relocation for their families. Korth VA refused them all. Fear weakened discipline. He knew that. But he underestimated how fast it spread. When a garrison commander abandoned his post and detonated a void mine to prevent the thing from reaching him, Korth VA knew morale had fractured beyond repair. He tripled surveillance. Every crew was scanned for subversion. Execution rates rose. Information blackouts were enforced across 40 sectors. Still, the image of the bride leaked again. Not through Dominion systems, but embedded inside Thalrexian brainware implant. It appeared in dream sequences, overlaying command interfaces, whispering in audio feeds at random. It was not Earth's doing. She had done this herself. The encryption was Terran. The intrusion, impossible. Her signal didn't break through their defenses. It grew from inside. Korth VA's cyber exorcists attempted purges. Nothing worked. One even tore out his own implants before setting fire to himself. His final scream, "She's watching." Korth VA was no longer just fighting humans. He was fighting belief. Desertion accelerated. Engineers jettisoned fleet cores and abandoned vessels mid-orbit. Drone factories self-sabotaged. A defense AI designed to protect the capital turned its targeting systems inward and wiped out an entire city block. Korth VA issued martial law. Those who disobeyed would die. But even that failed. Loyalty couldn't match fear. Meanwhile, the bride was still alive. She was moved again, now in a cryocore at the center of the Dominion's most secure asteroid vault, buried beneath 700 meters of neutron armor. Korth VA kept the location secret even from his generals. He didn't trust anyone. Not anymore. But she was awake. Her heartbeat wasn't slowed. It was synchronized. Every pulse triggered microbursts in the asteroid's circuitry. Each surge caused cascading failures in their core systems. Their quantum clocks began drifting. Temporal sync degraded. By the time they realized it, she had broadcast her coordinates through atomic distortion, a technique no species had even theorized. Earth responded. A vessel emerged above the asteroid. No transponder. No signal. No gravity wake. It simply existed where it hadn't before. Defense systems fired automatically. Beams hit, detonated, vanished. The asteroid's outer shell cracked. An implosion followed, silent and bright. The cryocore remained intact, but it was now empty. Korth VA had lost her again. Across the Dominion, monuments collapsed without explanation. Archival systems purged themselves. Statues crumbled. Names were erased. It wasn't Earth's weapons. It was precision psychological annihilation. They were unraveling the idea of the Dominion. Systems renamed themselves. Planets severed links to the throne world. The Thalrexian identity itself began to dissolve. Then came the Oathkeeper. No one knew what it was. Only that it descended on the planet Voritesh, where Korth VA's campaign began. It resembled a spire made of dark metal and fire. It never spoke. It hovered over the capital for 3 hours. When it departed, all records of Korth VA's deeds on that world were gone. Even the memories of survivors had holes. Mass forgettings occurred in perfect sequence. Next, the humans activated Project Echo. No one had seen it in generations. Even Earth had buried it in classified archives. But once triggered, its effects were undeniable. It made systems loop. Not time travel, but time recursion. Thalrexian fleets reported fighting battles that had already occurred. In one case, a commander died 4 times in 12 hours, reliving the same ambush with no escape. They surrendered. The human ship didn't respond. It simply vanished. Korth VA summoned his inner circle and locked them in the war bastion. He needed answers, not obedience. What was she? What was Earth doing? No one knew. One scientist suggested she had bonded with something ancient, older than war, older than history. Earth might have awoken a system not even they controlled. A vengeance engine. A godmaker. One general dared to speak truth. You should have let her walk down the aisle. Korth VA strangled him barehanded. But even then, he knew. This was no longer war. It was reckoning. The bride now wore no chains. She wasn't hiding. She was hunting. Every planet Korth VA had ever conquered was now under silent siege. No explosions. No soldiers. Just absence. Populations vanished. Biodomes emptied. Once busy stations drifted in stillness. Surveillance footage showed lights flickering, then darkness. Always in threes. 3 seconds of light. 3 pulses. 3 words. I remember everything. Entire rebel movements arose overnight, hailing her as the Reclaimer. Some called her the Flame Bride. Others, the Morning Star. The Dominion fractured faster than Korth-Va could suppress. But he wasn't finished. He summoned the ancient Titans. Weapons forbidden by Galactic Accord. Void-gargling constructs that fed on quasars. He unleashed them on suspected Terran paths. 6 were deployed. None returned. What came back was footage. Each Titan broken. Not by force, but by precision dismantling. Interior crews were intact. The Titans had been surgically silenced. In each command core, one thing remained. The original wedding invitation, replaying on loop. The galaxy watched. Entire governments sued for peace without being attacked. Species long neutral now spoke in reverence of humanity. Even enemies of Earth called for restraint. But Earth never responded. The bride hadn't stopped. She had not forgiven. Korth-Va authorized the final measure. The Omega Splice. It would burn 12 stars to fuel a temporal inversion field around his last stronghold, suspending time indefinitely. If they couldn't defeat her, they'd deny her access. The countdown began. She stopped it. The moment before activation, every failsafe failed. Every security node exploded inwards. Time did not invert. Instead, every screen blinked and showed a live feed of her, standing inside the core chamber, untouched, arms crossed. She didn't speak. She smiled. The feed cut. Now Korth-Va understood. She had never escaped. She had never been rescued. She had allowed everything. Because her vengeance was not about rage. It was about memory. And she remembered it all, the dress, the silence, the moment her life was shattered. And now she was shattering his. The stars around Korth-Va's final bastion began blinking out, one by one. Not because of weapons, because no one remained to report them. Civilizations had chosen disappearance over involvement. Entire species erased their own space lanes. Anything that once allied with him now scrubbed themselves from the galactic grid. They didn't fear war. They feared becoming part of her memory. The Dominion was no longer an empire. It was a grave. Inside it, Korth-Va waited. He knew Earth wouldn't send armies. She was enough. And she was coming. He had no army left. No throne. No chain of command. The once mighty Dominion now existed as a scattered archive of betrayal and ruin, its symbols buried, its laws erased. Korth-Va stood in silence inside the central sanctum of his final citadel, surrounded by quiet. No advisors, no guards. Only the endless tick of failing chronometers echoing against cracked steel. He hadn't slept in 6 standard cycles. He couldn't. Every time he closed his eyes, she was there, not as a memory, but as a presence. His implants sparked at random. The air vibrated with a pulse no instrument could measure. The Flame Bride had not just broken his empire. She had made him a ghost within it. His name was no longer feared. It wasn't even spoken. The last of his species had stopped responding to his emergency beacons. He had ordered their silence, long ago, believing that isolation meant safety. Now that silence devoured him. One by one, his command stations went dark. No battle, no visible attack. Just a terminal blackness, like existence itself stepping away. He tried to issue orders. His voice authorization failed. He tried to access weapons. Locked. He tried to escape. All vectors denied. Even the emergency override, hard-coded into the fabric of Dominion War Protocol, rejected him with a line he never imagined. You are not recognized. Not by the systems he built. Not by the people he ruled. Not by the machines he forged to obey only him. She hadn't destroyed his empire. She had convinced it to forget him. Across the stars, the reclamation bloomed. Humans never broadcast threat. They didn't need to. Their actions were enough. Whole sectors bowed preemptively, willingly offering reparations and silence just to avoid being remembered by her. Her legend consumed reality. In Thalrexan memory culture, history was a living code etched into ritual. Every war, every alliance, every crime, It was preserved by memory keepers in bio-linked networks. The Flame Bride infected them first. She didn't erase their records. She altered the emotional resonance. Moments of triumph now registered as shame. Acts of conquest felt like betrayal. Heroes became murderers. Worship turned to mourning. The mind of a civilization bent. And she never lifted a weapon. Earth sent no fleets. No ultimatums. No declarations. Every Terran signal was silent, except the one repeating pulse. She will remember. That message echoed across more than 300 worlds. After it played, silence followed. Cities emptied. Governments dissolved. Species gave up conquest and adopted exile. Some surrendered to Earth before Earth asked. Others turned on Thalrexian remnants out of fear. Even mercenary guilds began posting bans on involvement with any Korth VA initiative. His own bounty appeared. Posted anonymously. Payment. One pardon from her. He searched for her origin. Who trained her, what she was before the incident. The files were gone. Not hidden. Gone. Like they'd never existed. The official Dominion record of Earth's diplomatic registry didn't list any bride. The footage of the attack still existed, but her face was now blurred by code that no system could decrypt. Every time he tried to extract it, his equipment shut down. He spoke her name aloud for the first time in a long while. The air shifted. The walls sighed. She was near. Not in proximity. In certainty. Everything around him, the materials, the sensors, the energy grid, responded to her memory like it was gravity. She didn't arrive with flash or fire. She didn't need to. When he opened his eyes after blinking, she was standing across from him, untouched by time, expression unreadable. He couldn't breathe. His body locked. Not from fear. From recognition. The weight of everything he had done compressed into a single moment. He reached for words, but none formed. Her eyes watched him. Not with rage, not with hate, but with something colder. She remembered. And because she remembered, there would be no forgiveness. He dropped to his knees. Not in supplication. Not in surrender. Because his legs failed. His strength vanished. His species' greatest warrior couldn't stand before her gaze. She stepped forward. He flinched. She placed something on the ground. He looked. It was a ring. The original. Recovered from the wreckage of the first ambush site. Untouched. She had kept it. That ring had meant a future. A promise. A life that was taken before it began. And now she had returned it. Not as a gift, but as a gravestone. She turned and walked away. He tried to follow. Couldn't move. Tried to call her name. His voice failed. He screamed inside, but no sound came. And then the walls collapsed. Not physically, but perceptually. The world around him faded. Not destroyed, emptied. He remained in place, but space itself abandoned him. All sensation ceased. Light no longer reflected. Time stopped ticking. He was left alone in a prison of absence. Outside, the galaxy moved on. The last war ended not in fire, but in silence. Species gathered in council to rewrite accords. The new law was brief. No species would interfere with human rights, traditions, or sacred bonds. The word bride became an untouchable designation across StarMap. Even warlords enforced the law. Not out of respect, out of terror. And when new species emerged from distant arms of the spiral, they were warned not by ambassadors, but by myths. Stories of a woman in white flame who did not rage, but remembered. Who did not conquer, but made empires choose to disappear. Who carried no weapons, but made the galaxy disarm itself. They called her the last bride. Not because she married, but because her memory made the universe swear never to forget what happens when peace is violated, and love is shattered. And in the cold silence at the edge of time, Korth VA still sat, alive, undying, unseen by all, in a cage made from memory. She had not killed him. She had done worse. She had made sure he would never be remembered.